And you're done. What's going on, everyone? Thanks so much for joining us today. We have a great Aggie roundtable sitting here. I'm Travis Brown, the Eagle. Down. Okay, so now I can't do my on our same level thing because now he's kind of this way, or depending on where you're watching it, maybe this way. Diagonal for me, that's Robert Cessna of the Eagle, the great Robert Cessna, cease, as it were. Next to me, one of these sides, depending on how you're watching, that's Brent Zwerneman. Down below me, that's the great Billy Liucci, Texags. Brent Zwerneman, Houston Chronicle. We're here.
I'm right here beside him.
Oh, okay. Well, one of these, you can see their names down there. You know, everyone knows who Liucci is. So if it's not Liucci, it's one of the rest of us.
And this is Whistler, Zwerny.
I got 4 across the top, and then Luke's real big right now because he's talking.
Really.
It's a full house. It's a full house of Aggie sports. Perfect. Anyway, so we're here.
Four of a kind plays a lot. I've heard in some places.
There you go. There you go. Well, we're here. We're here talking A&M sports, guys. Let's just start right off the bat. What I know a lot of people want to know what's going to happen this fall. What's going to happen with football? How many people are going to be in the stadiums? Is there going to be a football season? What's your take on what football for Texas A&M is going to look like this far as of June 24th? Because I know this can change almost hourly.
Wow, no easy ones. Man.
Brent, lead us off.
Okay. This is just an uneducated guess. We'll call it that. I think right now, June 24th or whatever day it is, we will have football, but there's, it's going to be for TV purposes. It's not going to be where you're looking around and people are 6 feet apart in Kyle Field or anything. That's just my guess at this point. And honestly, I'm going to say I think that's an optimistic guess at this point as well, because I think we all really want to see some football this fall. So that's what I'm saying at this point. You will not see 100,000 people in Kyle Field. I'm sure of that. But I'm also don't think you'll even see like 25,000 either.
It changes by the day, obviously, by the week, especially. And with the way this stuff is gone, it's like every 2 weeks is so meaningful. And I think these next couple of weeks, because we're seeing what we're seeing in the media, and I've been at a crossroads watching this because I think this is the most serious thing of our lifetimes, especially, like Brent, with you, a parent of young kids, and I think it's the most serious thing we've ever seen. We see it's like a hurricane for us Houstonians, Brent. It's like a hurricane but it's going to last for at least a year, and we don't know how much longer. In that it's affecting everyone. It is very dangerous. It is changing our way of lives, our way of life. But to me, like these next couple weeks, because the other side of it though is that the media, there are some in the media nationally that I feel like just they want so bad to get the retweets and the clicks and the conversation on their Twitter. And that's where I feel like our medium has gone so much to. And I don't feel like any of you guys and myself, I don't feel like we do that here locally. I really don't. I watch it. I pay attention to it because it is a sore point to me. But I feel like nationally, everyone wants to jump and get the conversation going every time there are these cases. But I think the next 2 weeks are going to tell the tale. I agree with Brent. I think the numbers at the stadiums will be really low. I think it will be primarily for TV. I think they're optimistic. I think best case, you're looking at a half full capacity stadium that most places don't even get to because of people. But what worries me is these next couple of weeks, if you can get around this curve, I think of every team as like one of these cities or small countries where they spike and then come way down. If a place like Clemson, LSU, A&M, Alabama, Texas, wherever can say, yeah, since we've reported, we've had 35 kids have had it, 27 have recovered, and of the 8 left, 5 are asymptomatic. If people can start seeing that side of it, the other side of it, then I think the alarm bells will stop ringing a little bit and they'll say, hey, let's let this go and see what happens when August rolls around. But right now I feel like you're at any point you could see this thing kind of going the way the NBA went.
I'm a little bit of a gambling guy, so I would say 10 days ago, I would have had the over and under at Kyle Field at 50,000, which was kind of what people had talked about. Today, I will have put that over and under if I was in Vegas at 30,000 and declining. And I think I agree with Liucci. Next couple of weeks, I think it could go as low as 5,000 just to put in family, friends, and people that they can monitor, people that need to be there. I think it could go back to 50 if we have another two or 3 weeks, but a little bit of the hysteria of people, and it's not so much hysteria, but the numbers are out there, and we're seeing people, we're seeing golfers that have very little contact, you think, with people are getting the coronavirus. So what happens when real athletes are sweating and there's sweat out there and your pores are open and you got equipment on and you're actually tackling people that have, you can't help it that they got sweat on their body somewhere. I just think there's so many moving parts, and I think no one knows, and everybody just wants to throw things out there. But I think the more this goes on, it's going to decline, and I think Brent hit it on the money. We're going to be safe. We might be watching a lot of sports with nobody there virtually, and hopefully that'll be okay and get us to a point when we all can get back there, whether we're fans, media. I'm going to miss talking to players. I was just thinking the other day, we're not going to have that contact. We're not going to have one of our fellow reporters ask a question and later go, man, that was a stupid question. I wish I could ask a stupid question, in a couple of months or whatever, but I just don't know. But right now, my over and under is at 30 and it's gone down.
Yeah, I think that if it was me, if it was I was put in charge without, a lot of the constraints that people have to deal with, I think why not play the first game or two behind closed doors just to make sure that you have your protocols set up well with your players, with your staff, everything like that, and open things back up when you get to Colorado or when you get to that marquee game that people want to see, or even SEC. I think SEC is probably a little bit too far down, but let's make sure the protocols are underway, because you're looking now at the PGA. They came back early, and that's a really isolated sport, and there's guys pulling out left and right from the Travelers Championship this week. So I'm not doom and gloom. I think that this can happen, but I think let's take a progressive step like you've seen with other things regarding the coronavirus, and take some steps into seeing how it's going. Real quick, Luch, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I think a lot of that too, though, what you're seeing with the PGA and stuff, and NBA is going to do this with camp. And I think that's why it was important for football to start back up in terms of the workouts and stuff in June. Look, these things are insane. They're as safely monitored and measured as can be. To me, those kids are out. They're going to be out at bars. They're going to be out with their friends. They're going to be working out their local gyms or the high schools or with personal trainers anyway. At least get them in this most monitored and I mean, when you talk about sanitary, they're going to not just at A&M, but everywhere, just the most extreme measures. And I agree with Cease. When you start playing actual football, all bets are off. But I think the key is to see where the numbers are when they report to camp, and what percentage of the kids around the country in college football will have had that and recovered. And I don't believe in just, hey, let's throw them in there like this is the damn work. We're kids of the 80s. Me and Brent. Travis, you may be more of
I'm late 80s. I'm late 80s.
East was at Woodstock, but it's like it's not a chicken pox party, and I'm not trying to present it as such, but I do think just all these athletes and ringing this sound of alarm nationally, I think is disingenuous, because all these athletes would be, you look at what's going on in Houston and Dallas and Austin and Arizona and Florida. If they were at home, they're getting exposed to it, minus the consistent testing, minus the stringent contact tracing, minus the daily checking of temperatures and all that stuff, the mandatory quarantine, isolation. So I don't think it's a bad thing. I think the problem is you can't control them outside of it. And I'm going to ramble in real quick because I'm going to tell you, Brent and Cease and Travis, I want y'all's take on this. This is my biggest concern, guys, for this college football season in terms of if it happens. The integrity of college football this year will be completely, I think, threatened at the hands of these powerful, like all-powerful college coaches, ones who are on the hot seat and don't want to get fired, ones who think their team's on the verge of a breakthrough, ones who are all-powerful and the dominant figure on their campus. All that spectrum of coaches. And you tell me you give every one of them the news that, hey, your quarterback has COVID this week for the biggest game of the year, and he's asymptomatic. The NCAA can worry about all this nonsense. They need to worry about that, and how is that going to be across the board level? And if you're not doing it with third-party mandatory testing every week, then you're doing it wrong. And I think the entire integrity of this season is lost, and you may as well not play it.
Yeah, that's a good point you raised, because I mean, we're already starting to see, if you kind of extrapolate that, there's different colleges taking different stances on how they're releasing their numbers, how they're making public what their positive cases are and what aren't. And so you raise a good point in that if it's left up to the doctors and the coaches on if this guy is going to play or not, or if this guy is going to be locked up in his apartment or not, or if he's going to be on the field, it kind of is not too dissimilar to what they've had to do with concussions and concussion protocols. It's a good point I hadn't thought about.
I'll be honest, I haven't really heard anything since C started talking about players' pores being open. But no. Okay, so here's a conversation in the Zwerneman household that's almost become a daily thing. I've kind of bought into the idea that with all of the more and more testing that's going on, more and more awareness about it, that you are going to have those increased numbers. And as you have those increased numbers, you have increased cases and all those things, but the one I always tell Crystal, my wife,
who's been killing it, by the way.
What's that?
She's been awesome on Twitter covering this whole thing.
Yeah, she went national yesterday with her interview with the governor. That was pretty cool. But so I say keep an eye on the death count, because of course you're going to see more numbers at this point. And then you start saying, okay, I know it's a serious thing. I know it's serious for the elderly. I know it's serious for those with pre-existing conditions. But I also say, I don't think we can just shut everything down again. I do not see that happening again. And I say press on, and I'm a mask advocate. I went into Stripes a while ago to get the kids slushes, and, I was in there for 30 seconds, but I put a mask on to go in. And so I'm kind of that mindset now, that yes, you are going to see a spike in numbers and all those things, because there's much more testing. People are, there's more going on that front. People are more aware than they were in February and March and so forth. And I guess that's an optimistic way of saying I still do hope there's going to be a college football season. But certainly I can see what you're saying, Liucci, too, in terms of, and I did hear you, by the way, about all these extra things that are coming into play. If a player gets a positive test, but, oh, you're not feeling it, hey, we really need you, the star running back or so forth. It's going to open up a big – but – hey, one of the things we've said all along and in our meetings with Ross Bjork is, there's time. There's time. It's getting to a point where there's not near as much time as there used to be.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things where I was thinking, boy, all these lockdowns, and that's really going to curtail it. Well, we started opening things back up. The numbers are going back up. So now I'm not so sure anymore, because there's not nearly as much time as there was a couple of months ago when we first started talking about this.
For sure.
Z,
Let me cut you real quick. Well, go ahead. Drop yours in real quick. We have some questions to get to from some readers.
Z-Man, here's the deal is, I'm with you. I look at the hospitalizations, people hospitalized. I think it's a lot tougher than the flu, but people are going to get it. So I'm looking at the hospital numbers, the guys that can do it for 2 weeks and come back fine. And Liucci, I'm with you 100%. That's one of the first things I ask, who's going to be doing those tests, at the SEC? Is the same kind of credible guy going to be doing them at Mississippi State, at A&M and Alabama? I want uniformity in that, so that suddenly, we didn't know that so-and-so was asymptomatic going into that Alabama game or what have you, or LSU game. And then what do? He played and he was fine. They win the game. I want uniformity. I want what's going to happen. How do you do those tests? I'm with you 100% on that, Luch.
Definitely. Well, hey, first off, if you're watching on Facebook Live or on Periscope right now, be sure to, if you have any questions, comments, want to get in on the chatter, drop those in the comments. We'll get it. Luch, you got a guy over there named Dalton Hughes who twists and tweaks behind. I see your Dalton Hughes, and I raise you an Alex Miller. Alex Miller.
yeah.
Alex Miller's in the background here. Alex, what do we got?
All right. Hey, guys.
What's up, Alex?
What's up,
Whoa.
Luch? What's
That
up,
is
Brent?
Dalton Jr.
All
Where did
right.
you come from?
I came from the office. Yeah, it's a portal. But, okay, so our first question comes from Amy. And so we've been talking a lot about what could be in store for football season. But she asked, if there is no football season, how is that going to impact all other sports that depend on football money? Which I think is a very valid question. We saw today that UConn dropped 4 sports, or they're going to, and we'll see if this has a snowball effect. So, guys, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think I agree with what we said out here. There's going to be a football season. I don't know how many people are going to be there. So that means the TV money will be there. I think we've got to have college football. If all of us are covering it from our living room, I just think any way possible, we have to have college football. And Brent touched on about the economy. We got to get out there. We can't, I don't think we can run and hide long as the numbers are sufficient for us to get out there. So I'm for college football any way possible, even if we have to do it just in empty stadiums.
Can I
feel
just
like.
go ahead?
Go ahead, Brent. Go.
I was just going to say, without college football season for a place like Texas A&M, because obviously that's our discipline, I think it's disastrous. I think it's disastrous for the university, for the athletic department, and for the community as a whole. It's already going to be disastrous for the community to a point because of not having those 100,000 people come in for 7, weekends out of the year. Okay, start with that. But then you take away that TV money, no college football at all for the university and the athletic department. It's going to be unlike, going back to Luch's original point, unlike anything we've seen to this point. So that's why I kind of keep coming back to the idea and what Cease just said. We need to have college football this fall.
Yeah, and I feel like, I don't feel like, we know A&M is in the 1% in college athletics, in terms of financially. And like Brent said, it would be absolutely devastating even to a place like A&M, even to a place like Texas or Florida or Michigan or whatever. I mean, there's not many of them. A&M is the 1%. When you're talking about the money side of things and the resources side of things, and it would be a crushing blow for even A&M. So yeah, what it means for those other sports around college athletics, complete and total devastation.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what level the government would have to step in. I don't even think they could for that, that grand a scale. It would change college sports as we know it.
Well, simply, and I know something you brought up, simply look at the economic struggles that has been caused by not having things like state 7-on-7 in College Station, those little league tournaments, those select tournaments at Veterans Park and stuff like that. All those businesses around there rely on that stuff through the summer, and then you just extrapolate that to a much grander scale, not only within the university with the other athletics, but like you said, the restaurants, the hotels. This infrastructure of this town is built on having 100,000 people in here, six weekends a year, and then they make their money off that. So that would be pretty huge.
I think once again, you talk about living around here, Luch touched on it. What about if you live in Starkville, if you live in Manhattan, Kansas? I mean, what college football means to those towns? We can say how much it means to Bryan College Station, but man, some of those small towns that they don't get those big tournaments that you just talked about, Travis. They rely on college football. We got to have college football.
Yeah. Alex, we got another one over there?
Yeah. All right, so we got one more question. This one is from Chris. He wants to know, what do you guys think about the Mississippi State flag and the controversy that's going on there, and how it's affecting sports, particularly with the SEC and the NCAA coming out last week saying, hey, if y'all don't change this flag, we're not going to let y'all host postseason events. And Kylan Hill, Mississippi State star running back, he's come out and been pretty vocal about it too. So what's y'all's thoughts on that?
Well, I'll just say I think with the movement in our country and the climate around the country right now, some of these things that people have been kind of able to, like the state of Mississippi has been kind of able to, they fought that battle here and there, and the waves have come in and gone back out, and that flag stays. I think the climate we're in now, that flag's changing, whether you agree or not. Like, just politics aside, just kind of what I think is going to happen in that instance is that flag is going to change. And it's similar, A&M's in the middle of something like that. Texas is in the middle of something like that. Florida with the Gator bait chant. And there's a lot more, and there's going to be a lot more. And you got to make the right decision. And to do that before you're forced to, perception wise, is a hell of a lot better than doing it after you're forced to. At least go out and say, look, we did the right thing, even if it took us this long. And you have to, as leadership, look at it and go, what kind of fight are we fighting here? Like, is this a losing battle? Then if it is, even if you think you're right, whether you are or not, even if you think you are, why are you fighting it? And I don't know, that's going deep into it. My question, when I saw Greg Sankey come out and make that statement on behalf of the SEC, that was an eye opener. I was like, wow. For those that think they can let things kind of quiet down and the tide go back out like it has so many times in the past with so many of these things, I think they're dead ass wrong. And I think this is not the tide coming in. This is not a high tide. This is a tsunami right now.
Yeah. And last I checked, the Confederacy lost. I think that flag needs to go. That's one thing I never could figure out growing up in South Montgomery County, north of Houston, is that some people would have the rebel flag and the South will rise again. I would go, wait a minute. And they talk about how big and bad and tough the South was. And I think, wait, didn't the South lose that war? Isn't that, I've always been surprised that the flag has lasted this long, especially in an official capacity like that.
Yeah. And they're named the Rebels.
Yeah. Yeah. There's obviously a lot to unpack across all this, but I don't see how, is it that big a deal to them to say, we got to have this flag? To me, it doesn't. And as far as statues go, statues are kind of like clowns to me. They all give me the creeps. So, I wouldn't know, you hear about these statues coming down and things like that. And well, I didn't even know that was there, and that's fine. Maybe I need to be more historically versed, but in the scheme of things on some of these, I look at it as, is it really that big a deal? If it really helps people to feel better about things moving forward, do you really need to have the rebel flag on as part of your state flag?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But then I'm not from Mississippi either.
No, you're right. I could not agree with you more on that. And it's, I think just as a country, and especially leadership, you have to start change the prism through which you've gotten so used to looking at everything. And it really does matter to put yourself in the shoes of others. And again, like, put yourself in the shoes of other people. I've talked to a lot of my friends, dating back 20 years now in the last month, and it's, you do have to really just sit back and listen and say, this is not me. Just because I don't notice something that, doesn't mean it's not affecting other people. And that's where I think people have started to empathize a lot more in this country. And then you have some people that think that's a sign of weakness to emphasize. And I don't agree. I don't agree at all. I think in the grand scheme of things, it never hurts you in any way to look at, Brent, if you've got, if you're having a rough day with your kids or a rough stretch, and cease. You know, work's getting you down because I don't know anything about your work environment. Travis might be driving you nuts at work.
At the gambling table for C's.
Yeah, a bad day at the gambling table. Travis has to put up with
Any
C.
day.
Brent, you've got, you know, like you're getting overshadowed by CZ now on the news. I mean, it's tough. But seriously, yeah, but seriously, like my point is, nobody knows what anyone else is going through, and nobody knows what's in anybody else's heart at any given time. And the more we think that way, I think the easier these decisions become. Maybe I'm an idiot, and that's not why I'm in leadership and politics, but that's just what I think.
And good on the student athletes for realizing through this thing that they have a voice and that people will listen to what they have to say because of the platform that they have. I know that's kind of cliche, but I don't think that has been more relevant until now, especially when people saw, if you look at the pandemic, that everything didn't really, when you talk about when things shut down, it was when the NBA suspended play. And that's across the board, whether you talk about sports or just general society. Sports is a measuring stick for things, and good on these student athletes for realizing that their voice matters.
We're supposed to learn from it.
I did want to say no offense, and with all due respect, any clowns out there who may have been offended by my earlier comment.
Don't offend anybody, but we're supposed to learn from history and move on. And I think one thing I like to emphasize is everybody loves their opinion. I love my opinion, but Brent knows his opinion is better. And that's the society we live in, but we have to work with each other. And as Brent said, is the flag important to you? Is that statue so important to you? Put it in your house, you know, whatever. There's museums for that. The bottom line is, let's go back to the main, you know, if you want to go back to basics, you're supposed to love your neighbor. So how do you get along? Because not everybody has your same opinion. I don't care what we're talking about, but you got to find common ground as best you can and move forward. Don't live in the past. Don't go back. Go forward. If you love your neighbor, it can work it out. Life will be good.
Let's move into something a little bit more not
sports.
Sport. Well, kind of sports related, but this is a question we've done these weekly.
Can I ask one thing?
Yeah.
All that being said, nobody better touch my Sam Houston statue in Huntsville.
There you go.
That left-handed pitch you gave up for a grand slam. Everybody remembers that one.
Yeah. So
the one that went over the statue.
Yeah, the one that went over the statue. So
also
knocked it down.
Yeah. Something that I've asked all the people that we've had, and we've done this for weeks, other reporters and stuff like that. Something that fascinates me, and I think that we don't, a lot of times, me and Cease and Brent and Liucci, a lot when we're traveling, we're sitting at a Waffle House, we talk about what is, when you think back about your career to this date and what you've been doing this, what is the best moment, interaction you've had with an athlete, your favorite athlete you've had to cover, one of the funniest stories that you come up with? Let's pull back the curtain a little bit and go back and think either A, the best athlete that you covered and kind of some of the reasons why your story, or B, one of the funniest moments on the beat where maybe we can roast someone on here that you're willing to share, and or C, just what it's meant to kind of do what you do, and some funny or a funny story about doing this over the years.
I'll hop in there first.
Okay.
I have a favorite athlete who I covered, and this was, you know, as Luch will remember, and Cease has already been around 1 or 2 years by then. I have a favorite athlete, and maybe y'all can guess, and there's not a close second.
Do you want me to guess?
Yeah, you guess it.
Dat.
You got it. Yeah. Awesome guy. And I'm going to give an example of that. You know, he redshirted. I started at the Eagle in 1994, a City Hall's reporter. Actually, my first job was writing obituaries, which my little joke there is that helped prepare me to cover the Franchione era. So then I did City Halls. And then Cease, 25 years ago this month, which I need to write about this month, walked across the newsroom and said, "Hey, Olin Buchanan is leaving for the Statesman. You want to come cover the Aggies?" I said, "Let's see, Brian's College Station, City Halls, Texas A&M football. Let me grab my stuff."
Boys.
Yeah, and
one of them would stress you out a lot less, though. I will say that.
I know, man. Those egret birds that were causing trouble in Brian So Dad had redshirted in '94. My first year to cover the Aggies was '95. Also his redshirt freshman year. So as we moved along together, and I covered him, and then of course he went on to the Cowboys, and next thing you know, I'm covering the Cowboys. Did that couple years. So there were some connections there. But let me give it just one quick story. Is the steakhouse still open in Somerville? Do y'all know that? Remember, that was a big place for students.
We used to, yeah. I don't know that.
It was a couple of years ago, so I'm sure it still is.
Students, Bryan College Station residents used to go down to the Somerville Steakhouse quite a bit. So in about 1998, I had a date. We went down to Somerville Steakhouse, and I look over there, and Dad's sitting there with his family, and we wave a little bit like that, and and I'm with this date and everything like that, and I tell myself, okay, I'm not going to get up and introduce her to him. I'm not going to bother him. He's with his family. So we're sitting there. Next thing I know, someone taps me on the shoulder, and I turn around. It's Dad. He came over to us, and he sticks out his hand, and just as friendly as can be, hey, I'm Dat Wynn. And she's like, yeah, I know who you are. And, things like that, just with him along the way, just that was just normal for him. And so, yeah, he's easily number one, far and away my favorite guy to cover. Of course, and John Sheshik with the baseball team, I had a lot of connections with as well. But that's the guy.
Cease, what about you? This is interesting to me. I knew Brent's because we've talked about it before. I have not known.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about this before. Targets. You got to remember that I covered high schools for basically 20 years full time before I went to A&M full time. And when you get to meet and talk to people like Joe Hedrick was at Franklin, Merrill Green here in town, Ross Rogers, high school coaches, you almost become like a sports information director with them. I mean, just because there's not information out there, they drop their guard against you. They're very open to where they're at. And unfortunately, I didn't get to the colleges quick enough. Yeah, you had those situations. I had a good relationship with Jackie Sherrill. I know a lot of people didn't get along with him, but Jackie had Pittsburgh ties. And once again, I'll get the players later, but coaches, that's the reason I got into the business. When I went out and talked to people like that, when you talk to high school coaches, that you saw them, they weren't making great money, but they were giving everything they had to the community and those kids, and getting so much negative feedback at time because they weren't playing the right people or they weren't doing this. I still this day think so much of high school coaches because they start this great thing that we all like, whether it's pro baseball or pro football. It all gets back to high school coaches. So high school coaches always going to have a special part in my life, in my heart, because I know they don't do it for the money when it's all said and done. They don't do it for the fame. They do it. That's just what God made them to do. And athletes, oh my gosh, getting back, I've covered both agendas. The guys like the Rod Bernsteins, John Peters, I covered that as he went to set the record for the all-time pitchers. And I'll miss people because I've been here so long. And then you think about, even last week, I laugh about the little things. I lost my wedge. I played golf with Travis last week over Traditions. And who do I see before I tee off? I talked to Stephen Mcgee, one of my favorite guys. I mean, you think about him. And then who found my wedge? It was Mcgee and his partner, because I finally tracked it down through a third party. And he goes, hey, if it was new as me, threw the wedge away. But I mean, it's like, you can't beat those moments. And I know you have a lot of those, Liucci, over the years, because you're a little closer to the A&M athletes. You can't tell people how much fun that is and still be, a professional rider. And, I love it when, Jackie called me out, RC's called me out, but yet I consider those guys. RC, how can you not like RC Slocum? John David Crow, go over his house when I was doing stories, now Brent does. We could go on and on. This is why we got into business. This is why I think we all like Jimbo. Jimbo's a little old school. We don't have enough day-to-day contact with him, but Jimbo Fisher's the kind of guy I got in this business for, so that you could, but now with cell phones and whatever, you can't go out and have a beer with him. I had a beer with Emery Blar when I first got down here. When I
Yeah.
first started into business, that's why I got into business. And I'm sorry, I talked a little bit too. I got into business to be around you guys. I can remember that first time I got in Brent's car and he had the Confederate flag flying out and he had a statue of Sol Ross beside him. And what a great time we had.
Wow. Hey,
I-
Cease, when Pinky Wilson wrote the Aggie War Hymn, what did you first think of it? I mean, did you like it?
He was
I said
pissed they
this-
mentioned the Longhorns.
I
You're
said
too
the song
worried
will never
about
make it.
Texas.
I said the song will never make it.
Well,
Pinky called you out.
Yeah.
on my end, I would say, and yeah, Travis, we're not going to go through all the stories there's the stories and then there's the myths. If you go read like Orange Bloods, then it goes down a whole nother road of just made up crap. But I'm with Brent. It's a little different because to me, like I'm to like that incredible bunch of Dat and Dan and Dante and Jay Brooks, Gamble, that whole crew, that whole time period, Rich Cody, Baum, Jason Glenn, Cornelius Anthony. I had them on my podcast the other day. We had a great time. Like those guys are like how Brent and Shesh are. Like we were at that age where they're only 4 or 5 years younger than me tops. Well, actually, a lot of them were 2 years younger than me. So those were kind of more my peers and even in some instances my roommates than people I covered. I was so new to it, So since I've been covering it, there's some that stand out. Like I loved when Ryan Tannehill would really open up and talk, when he'd tell you, hey, I'm a quarterback. I'm not a wide receiver. I'm a quarterback. And then to watch him turn into what he turned into. And it's like, I'd always want to be like, relax, you're going to play quarterback. But I'm like, you're balling as a receiver, but he's probably sitting there going, every time I make a great catch, I'm that much closer to them never letting me play QB. So you could sense that inner, like, I'm never letting this go. And look how it turned out. Mcgee's up there. Martellus Bennett's up there for me. I mean, you talk about like, here's the thing. Martellus and Michael Bennett, those two never said no to any interview ever for me. And that's when we were having players on live at the Tap and they would have to leave and, drop what they're doing and drive over and be responsible and not no-show you. No one was ever more reliable than those two. And you could insert the joke that they both love the microphone, but man, they were entertaining. They were funny and they were reliable and actually really easy to work with for me. And so they stand out. But to me, it's Johnny, because that was the most unique time period and the most unique athlete. It might be Johnny and AC Law at number 2, but Johnny, we all went to New York for the Heisman Trophy. You're sitting there when an Aggie wins the Heisman Trophy. You're sitting there. I get the news about this half-game suspension, and I don't believe it because who the hell's ever heard of a half-game suspension from that ongoing investigation? And I was with Bruce Feldman and Jen Brown, and I think Kaylee Hartung the day Johnny met with the NCAA, and he rolls up into Chimmy's, and it's the three of us sitting there, and he walks up, hey Bruce, hey Jen, like it's nothing, and just says, yeah, I just met with them all day, they're not going to do anything. It's just like, it was the weirdest time. I was with Spav the night that the article in ESPN the magazine, that incredible article about Johnny and his dad. And I was there when Uncle Nate came up and handed Spav his business card. And Jake was like, where am I? Like, what is this? My quarterback has a man. It was the weirdest, most just surreal time of watching all that. And I remember Johnny coming up after the Florida game and telling me I said, yeah, I think y'all are going to win a lot of games. He was asking me what I thought. And he goes, we're going to win every game we play from now on. He missed it by one, LSU, but just kind of all those little stories in there, you know, him walking over to where we were standing, where I was standing, because y'all know I can't see from a damn press box, and I'm sitting down there, and he comes over and says, no more effing field goals. We're scoring a touchdown on this drive. Mark it down. You can talk about it on your radio show. Bleep this, bleep Alabama, bleep Nick Saban. This is a touchdown, guarantee it. And then TJ Yeldon fumbles, and the O-linemen are grabbing him and pulling him, and Staples goes, what did he just say? I say, he says he's going to touchdown. 2 plays later, touchdown. He runs up. So all that stuff. And then to follow it on through the draft and on out, I mean, it was pretty incredible. And we've never seen like that kind of spotlight on A&M nationally. Former players. I remember going out, bringing Keith Mitchell out one night on Northgate after a game. First time he'd been to town. This is an A&M star, right? He's an NFL Pro Bowler. He was an All-American. Took him out. You know, he saw Johnny. He saw the people and the commotion that was going on around him, like just people, just pictures and all the lights or cameras and video. He couldn't believe that. And this is an NFL Pro Bowler. We were walking out and he goes, man, A&M's changed. You know, it was a wild 2 years to cover, as all you guys know, but it was I think that made it was the most fun. And, you know, we've done some pretty honest interviews over the years as well. So that would be where I would put him there.
Here I was happy about a tap on the shoulder from Dad.
Well, you left out the story too of splitting the pizza with him. My favorite of that is, you know, he wins the butt kiss and there you and him are sharing a pizza. You know, that to me, that was like.
Yeah,
I haven't.
Yeah, that would, Liucci, it's funny with that photographic memory you have of stories like that, because I didn't even remember that one. But yeah, that wins the Lombardi Award. And then his family ordered, you know, it's kind of one of those things, you don't really think about all those things. His family hadn't really eaten it. The banquet was really long and everything. So they order pizza at that hotel lobby, nice hotel lobby in Houston. I'm over there writing the story. Dad comes up, reads my lead over my shoulder. And he goes, hey, you want some pizza? We got some pizza over there. Heck yeah. So, you know, I was hungry too. So that brings me pizza while I'm writing a story about him winning the Lombardi Award.
That's crazy.
I'll always remember New York.
I actually haven't gotten to share mine on this as we've done the other ones. I haven't been on the A&M beat long enough to like have these great nostalgic. Yeah, right. Right. For me, the best interaction I had was when I was in Dallas, working for ESPN Dallas. I would sometimes string for ESPN Boston when the Red Sox came in town, and Shane Victorino was on the team then. And there was a play where he hit. He was on third base and he hit a pop fly foul ball, and we just kind of went over. I went up to him and asked him like, hey, you know, it's 5th inning, pop fly foul ball. Do you want to? Are you looking to just get it in the air, or are you looking to you know, the situation between tagging or going on a pop fly foul ball in the middle of a game? And at first he kind of went, no, I never do that. And then I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I walk over and I'm just standing in the locker room waiting for something. Then I get a tap on my shoulder and he goes, well, actually, you know, and then we proceeded to talk for an hour about just the nitty gritty of baseball and what you do in some situations. Just the nicest guy you could run across. And so that's just one of the ones that stood out to me, because I was like that was like a year I was out of college. I was this little nervous reporter going to try to talk in the Boston Red Sox locker room. He was a great guy. So
imagine if he'd have made the mistake of doing that to Gabe.
Yeah, I know, right?
Luckily it was you, Travis.
That's fantastic.
Quick story on Cease, real quick. Since we're telling stories, made me think of it. Working for him one summer. It was just probably about 1996, 97. And Cease is kind of going through his schedule on a Monday or Tuesday. And he goes, hey, I need you to cover this Aggieland baseball all-star game on Saturday over at so-and-so park, you know, at Travis Field or whatever. He goes, I need you to cover that. And I go, Cease, I'm one of the starting pitchers. He goes, write a good story.
Double duty.
Yeah.
Double
one of my
duty.
favorite stories that I've ever written was describing how I hung that curveball to a guy named Thad Ray who put it into orbit. It's probably
Put it
still
over
up
the
there.
Sam Houston statue.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was able
You
to
know,
describe that very well.
That's funny.
Z-Man, you just said it's a 25-year anniversary since I walked across this newsroom and asked you to take the Aggie beat. I'm so glad those other 4 guys turned me down.
That's fantastic. Well, see, do you have anything to ask these guys?
Guys, I miss being out at the parks. I mean, I never thought I'd miss summer workouts or whatever the hell they are, since I guess we never go. But since there wasn't baseball, I just miss working. I miss being around the guys. I miss ripping the TV guys, off the record, of course, when they're not around, but just, having ripped Louie and how long. I mean, it's just hard. It's what we do, and I miss what we do.
I'll tell you. Go. I was just saying, I miss the fact that we would be in a couple weeks. We'd probably all be convening. And me and Brent would be getting left at the airport, and we'd meet y'all at the Waffle House in Atlanta. I was really looking forward to that.
I was too. And walking to like 4 different Waffle Houses because none of them are.
Uber driver at the Atlanta airport says, "Hey, I can only take 2." Steve turns to Travis and goes, "Come on, let's go." My bags. Liucci comes out, "Hey, you need a ride." Man, thanks.
Age before beauty.
But you leave out, Brent, that both of us had phones that were just on the verge of being like dying out, so they weren't going to be able to stay on.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The story. And then we ate at Waffle House. That Waffle House made the news recently.
Yeah, I forgot. I can thank Liucci for us not getting attacked outside the Waffle House in Atlanta. It's amazing. There's so much in this business you forget.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah. There you go. Well, let's wrap it up with this. We can do it real quick because I know we've been on here for a while. Since we really didn't actually talk much A&M football on here, what is the one key thing you're looking forward to with this A&M team coming up this year that might be the biggest improvement, or the one key thing that could be the key to their success this year? Let's go around with that to wrap it up.
Offensive line.
I think it's as simple as I agree. That's my number one, but I'll tie into that and I'll say I'm excited to see a veteran football team with so much continuity coming back. Both the head coach, year 3, both coordinators, technically Jimbo and Dickey and Elko, year 3, same system for the 3rd straight year. A senior quarterback. They got to get a lot better, but a senior laden offensive line. And I just think so much experience on both sides of the ball in the way of returning starters. You finally have some real seniors. But I also will tie into that those young guys that were so exciting and so promising by the end of last year, maybe 6 of your 10 best players in that bowl game, to see what those guys can do in year 2, combined with that veteran element and an easier schedule. Yeah, that excites me. And I know that's a big part of why I'm like, gosh, you really want to see this season play out and play out as normally as possible, because I think if it does that, A&M is one of the handful of teams that benefits.
Travis, I thought you were going to say, let's wrap it up with talking about Harvey Little League and how that's
that's
been a big release for me, because
it's the only Ranger baseball that I get to watch right now.
Yeah, no, honestly, that's been a big help for me mentally to be able to go out to the ballpark. Now, I'm not inviting everybody out there because we're still trying to keep our distance and everything, but I have 2 playing out there, and that's been a blast. But no, in terms of A&M football, and I'll say this, and actually what made me think of that was the conversation I had with some of the other coaches and dads out there is, and I don't mean to be a little bit of a downer here, but it's actually a compliment. I think the Aggies were hurt, and this is obviously a promising season for them. But Jimbo is such a tactician, and he's such a perfectionist, and he gets so much done in the offseason and the spring drills, and he stays on them so hard. That pays off during the season. And the Aggies, they're going to miss that part. Now, ideally they'll have their training camp and everything like that. But I just think that hurts them a little bit, but I also think they're going to be in line for, 10 or 11 wins this season as well. I do think, though, that Jimbo is so hard on those guys in the offseason, and these are all good things, and teaches them so much in that time the Aggies sorely missed that this year going into his third season, because for the first time, the two deep is primarily Jimbo recruits. First time he's had that. But, I do think you're looking at what should be 10 wins this season.
Sure.
Be nice.
Yeah. I think I go with C's offensive line, especially with not having. When we were talking last winter, it was going to be, this is a huge summer. This is a huge spring practice for the offensive line to take that next step. And they didn't have that. So what are they going to be able to do in a little bit of time, and a little bit of a look? There's definitely a lot of strength coming in at wide receiver from freshmen that could see some significant starting time, but just how well they adapt is something that I'm going to watch out for with those guys. So anyway, thank y'all guys so much for joining us. Like C said, these are conversations that we like to have amongst ourselves, sitting around some food and hanging out. We don't get to have those right now. So it was a little bit longer than probably we expected, but I think we were having fun with it. So appreciate y'all for joining us. If you're watching this on replay, keep firing those comments in. We can come get to those and answer some of those, type in later. And we'll be sure to check not only the Eagle and myagnation.com, but the Houston Chronicle and TexAgs for all kinds of good A&M content around here. Thanks, guys, and we'll talk to everyone soon.
Thanks, Luch. Thanks, Z-Man. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. It was
And
fun.
that story told about climbing in the car with me was not true.
It wasn't?